welcome to Lard Island. I'm Richard Clark, and today we are looking at our latest set of rules. Here they are in the flesh. What a Tanker! A game of World War II tank combat, challenging and fun. We've called it, and we hope to show you how it is both of those. I'm joined by the man who's designed the game, my colleague Nicholas Skinner, otherwise known as Fat Nick. Nick, welcome to the studio.
Hi.
Hello indeed. And we've set up a bit of a table here, Normandy theme I'd say, and we're just going to have a bit of a run out with 4 vehicles. We're going to take control of 2 each. I've got a Panzer IV and a Stug III, because I'm German, and my colleague Nick, what have you brought with you today, Nicholas?
Well, I'm playing the Americans. I've got a Stuart light tank, which will be interesting because it's fast, obviously, and I've got an M10 Tank Destroyer.
Okay, what I like to hear about both of those is they're pretty thinly armoured, but that Tank Destroyer's got a big punch, hasn't it?
Yes, it does, and not only that, but it has a previous kill as well, so it's coming into the game with a kill ring that will give it a bonus.
Well, that's interesting actually, because my Stug has got a previous kill as well. So, should be interesting. Give you guys at home an opportunity to look through the rules, see how they work. And without further ado, what we're going to do is take a quick scan of the table so you can see what the setup is. What we're doing is we're going to play long ball so that we're not in the way of each other and we're not photographing the back of my head, which is, believe it or not, even less pretty than the front of my head. So let's take a quick look at that table. Okay, so we're ready to rock. First turn, we dive straight in. We roll 1 dice each for each of our tanks. So I'm going to roll for my Panzer IV. I've rolled a 2, not great. I'm rolling for my Stug, that's a 6. I'm happy with that. So we're going to see what order our vehicles are going to activate in.
I'm going to roll a 6.
Oh, Nick's rolled a 6.
For the Wolverine and for the Stuart a
3. Right, okay.
So we're going to roll off.
We're going to roll off to see who goes first. So let's do that. I've rolled a 4. Nick's rolled a 6.
Great.
So we're going to give him these. We've got these little tokens here. You can cut the ones out the rules. We're using sharp practice tokens. They run up to a dozen red ones, dozen blue ones. So great opportunity to use something you've already got possibly. Nick, you go first. I go second.
Then it was you with a 4.
It's me with a 4, so I'm third with my Panzer IV, and the Stuart is going last. So, next thing we're going to do is we're going to let Nick roll his command dice for his M10.
Okay. So I'm going to roll 6 dice.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to roll my command dice for my M10 and see what I get. Now then. I've got a 1, which allows me to drive. I have a 2, which allows me to acquire a target. I have a 3, which enables me to aim. I have a 4, which would enable me to shoot. I have a 5, which would enable me to reload. And I have a wild dice, which would enable me to change into any other score that I wish, or do some other things with it. Now that is a really good roll. I'm really happy with that. I've got the opportunity to do whatever I want to do. So what I will do is want to drive forward. I want to make sure I can get closer to my enemy. Now, because the M10 is a fast tank, it enables me to turn any dice that I don't wish to use into an additional drive dice to enable me to move. So, although I rolled a single 1 to give 1 drive activation, I can change any of the other dice into a 1 to give me another drive activation. So that's 2.
Let's just make that clear. That's right, because when he says any of the other dice, he means any of the other dice, but any one other dice. You can't change all of them, it's one of them. So,
yep.
Which one are you going to turn into the 1 for driving?
Well, okay, I don't need to reload.
No.
So I think I can safely turn the reload into a 1.
Yeah.
So that will give me 2 drive activations. I also rolled a 6. Now, 6 is a wild dice, and I can change a wild dice into any other score that I wish. And because in this instance I want to drive faster, I'm going to turn that into an additional drive dice to give me a total of 3 drive dice that I can now use to shoot down the table as quickly as I can and get into a good position.
So because you're going forward, each of those drive dice gives you 2d6 of movement, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely
So
right.
that's a big 6d6. Now one of the things interesting Nick could have done there, he could have rolled 4d6 and then seen what happens, because if he rolled 24 on that, he might decide that he doesn't want the 6 to turn that into movement. So you don't have to make those decisions at the start of each phase of play. You can make it up as you go along. You can play a dice at a time and then see how it goes. But let's roll those dice.
And I think that if the combat situation were different and we were closer together, I probably would be a bit more cagey.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're just coming on from the edge of the table. There's a fair bit of intervening terrain.
Especially with a
between the
long
tanks.
ball scenario. If we were playing Fat Boy,
Yeah.
could have been different.
If only we were playing Fat Boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to roll my 6 dice and see where that takes me.
Okay. 17 inches. Now let's move the magic tray. And which way are you going?
Now, I'm going to move on down the table. So I can turn less than 90 degrees without any cost whatsoever.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
going to go in a fairly straight line here with just a bit of adjustment to go through a gap in the hedge. So it's a straight 17. So I don't need to worry about moving 2 inches and then rotating 20 degrees. I just move my tank the distance that I want to go and end up in the place I want to be.
Right, okay, fine. So that's Nick's token use. So we put that back in the hat in the middle for the first tank out. Second one is going to be my Stug. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll my 6 command dice. We're all starting with 6 command dice, remember? And then we'll see what I'm going to do with that. So here we go, let's roll away. Okay, what have we got there? Well, we've got a 6, which is a wild dice, as we know. We've got a 5 for reload. We've got a 3 and a 3 for aim. And we've got a 2 for acquire. I haven't got any movement there. And I'm not a fast tank, but I think what I'm going to do is turn this 6 into a move dice. So I'm going to turn that into a 1, and I'm going to roll my d6 and move. Okay, now I've rolled a 7 there, and I'm going to head up towards this wall. Right, nice and quick, nothing else to be done. You can't use all your dice all of the time. So next one out is actually the Panzer IV. So I'm going to carry on and have a go there, roll my dice there. Now, interesting roll there. I've rolled 3 6s, a 5 and 2 1s. Now that is a kind of magical little roll that's going to allow me potentially to do an awful lot with it. Let's go and see how I decide to use them. Okay, so here I am with my Panzer IV. I've got 2 1s, so I can drive if I want. The great thing for me is I've got a clear shot down the table with only 1 intervening hedge at the Stuart. Now I haven't got any acquisition dice, but I've got 3 6s. That's a powerful hand. And I'm unbuttoned, so that means I need 1 less acquisition dice to see my target than I would if I was buttoned up. So with 1 piece of intervening terrain, that means I'm going to need to turn 1 of these 6s into a 2. So I've acquired my target, and I'm going to shift my little acquired token over on my dashboard to show that. I'm already loaded. Everybody begins the game loaded. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of those 1s, those movement dice, to see how far I get, because I'm very aware that Nick is over there with his tank destroyer, so I want to get quite a bit of terrain between me and him. I've rolled 6. Let's move that up the table. I don't think that's enough, so I'm going to roll another 2 dice to try and put myself on this hedge here, which I have achieved. So I'm putting myself in a good defensive position. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to use my universal tanker tool to adjust my turret, making sure I don't move more than 60 degrees. It's only a few degrees, but it's a great opportunity to show off this fantastic piece of perspex. Right, so I'm going to use, as I said, turn one of those. I've turned one of those 6s into a 2. Now I'm going to aim. So I'm going to use 1d6 to turn that into a 3. Now I only need 1 aim dice because I've already acquired my target. What I could do, if I had more 6s, I could add an additional 3, which would mean I aim with a +1 to hit. But I haven't got enough because the third 6 I'm going to use to fire. I'm turning that into a 4. And that then is going to leave me a 5 to reload at the end of the phase. So I make sure that I move my aimed across, my acquired across. I'm also going to button up. That's the last thing I do in the phase, but I'm doing it now so I remember it. And my loaded token stays loaded because I am. Okay, so I'm going to roll my dice to hit. I need 6 to hit normally. However, I'm firing through 1 intervening obstacle, makes that 7. And it's a real long shot all the way down the table, so I would need 8 to hit. Let's roll the dice and see what happens there. I rolled a 7. The shell's gone screaming over his head. I've just missed him by 1. So that ends my phase. I put my numbered token back in the middle, and we're going to head over to Nick to see how his Stuart reacts to that.
So the last tank to activate in this phase is my light tank, the Stuart. It's a fast tank, so it's able to get benefits from that when I roll my command dice. So let's roll my command dice and see what we get. That is a good hand for me. I've got 3 1s, which would enable me to put 3 lots of drive activations, so I could move with 6d6. I have 2 aims, 2 3s, and a reload. Now, I've just been fired at, and I'm in the middle of the field, and I'm thinking that this isn't the best place to hang about. So I'm going to use my 3 drive dice, and I'm also going to use my attribute as a fast tank and change my reload into another 1. So I'm going to move with 8 dice now to get out of this field, get some cover between me and my enemy, and get myself into a better position. Now, the very act of moving is going to be good for me because it means that he is going to lose his aim. The Panzer IV that aimed at me will lose his aim. As soon as either tank moves, either the tank that's aiming or the tank that's being aimed at, as soon as that moves, the aim status is lost. So moving is great. Secondly, if I can move fast enough across his line of sight, because he's buttoned up, it means that he might not be able to track me and I might be able to get completely out of his zone. So I rolled my 8 dice and I haven't rolled a fantastic roll, and my small brain is now working out how I can add up these 8 dice quite quickly, and I've rolled what looks to be 21. So I'm going to move 21 inches across the field, which isn't quite going to take me out of the danger zone, but it's going to be a pretty good effort. So just 21 straight across the field, zooming across. I'm flank onto him, which is I'm a little bit nervous about, but I'm hoping that next time I can get an activation first, which means I can keep going out of his line of sight, and I will traverse my turret as we go. So I use my tanker token. I've actually taken 4 movements there, so I've got plenty of space to move my turret towards him, but I don't have any acquisition dice in my hand, so I can't try to locate him as a target, and that's the end of my activation.
Okay, so there we go. That's the end of the first turn. As you can see, pretty quick, especially while we're a distance apart. So what we do, we put our tokens back in the middle, and we're going to roll the dice again to see who's going to activate first in this turn. None of us saved any of our 6s from last turn to add into the pot this time, so it's a straight roll. So I'm rolling for 1 for my Panzer IV. Music to your ears, probably.
Absolutely.
And a 1 for my Stug. Well, there we go. Anybody who's ever seen me roll dice on Beast of War will know that this is not unique. So, where you go, Nicholas?
Yeah, I'm going to roll for my Stuart first because I'm feeling more excited about that one. And that's
Oh,
a nice
that's a
big
6.
6, so I'm fairly confident he's going to go first, or at least certainly ahead of the Germans.
Right.
And the M10 rolls a 3.
So
I
where
know
we go?
the Stuart will go first. I know because I rolled a 3 that the M10 will go second. You're in a roll-off.
I'm going to roll off for the 2 tanks. So the Panzer IV, 5, and the Stug, 1 again. So there we go, we'll put them out. So Nick, we're going to kick off with you and your little Stuart. So what are you going to do, mate?
Okay. Right. So rolling my 6 command dice for my Stuart. I still like to get out of your line of sight, really, give myself a bit more protection. I've rolled a 1, a 2, a 3, 2 3s in fact, a 4 and a 5. So I certainly have enough to drive. In fact, I'm going to probably turn my reload again into a drive. So first thing I'm going to do is use 2 dice to drive. So I'm going to move with 4 dice. And I go
big
19,
roll,
nice big roll. So that's going to get me nicely out of your way. In fact, I'm going to shoot right over this way, I think. Keep going like a bat out of hell. And I have the ability to try and acquire something, but I've only got one acquisition dice. I would need another, at least one other, and I haven't got that, so I think that's going to be my activation. Now, my M10 was the second tank to activate in this phase, and I'm going to roll my command dice and see what it comes up with. So I have a 1, a 3, a wild dice, 2 aims, and a reload. Now the M10 is fast, so again I can change one of those dice into move if I wish to, or drive if I wish to. And I have this wild dice which I can also change. Now I need to think about how I'm going to acquire a target here, and I'm in quite a nice location, but I haven't got a great line of sight onto the Panzer IV, and I haven't got any target acquisition dice anyway. So I'm going to just move up a little bit to give myself a bit of a clearer line of sight and hope that maybe I can acquire him in the next phase. So I'm going to drive up the road with 2 dice. So roll my 2 dice for that nice big 11. Toot toot, mind out Mr. Stuart. We're coming up the road. I can rotate my turret within the 60 as I go. Looking at the Panzer IV. Now, okay, that was a nice move, but actually I would have quite liked to be able to get a bead on him, but unfortunately there's too much intervening terrain. If I was to attempt to acquire the Panzer IV, I would need 1, 2, 3 twos to enable me to do that. And I just don't have that ability in my command dice roll for this turn. So that's the end of my activation.
Okay, and that's why I moved forward earlier on in the game to try and give myself plenty of cover on that flank, because I was very keen to take on the Stuart, get a nice cheap kill there, and then hope that Nick's M10 would run away. Anyway, let's see what we're going to do next. I'm going to roll my command dice because it is, talking of which, the Panzer IV about to take its turn. So let's roll these dice and see what we get. Okay, right, interesting hand. 2 1s, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 6. Now 2 1s, a couple of dice of movement if I want to shut the distance down. I've got on a 2, which is an acquire. Now I'll need that, so I'll need a clear line of sight, because if you remember I buttoned up. And I've got a 3 to aim, so I really need to try and get a clear line of sight. Now, I reckon I can do that if I get there. So I'm going to take 2 dice to move, and sure enough, 8. I'm going to push forward to there, whoops, without taking the terrain with me. Now I've got a clear line of sight on the flank of your Stuart. So I'm using the 2 to acquire. I'm going to use the 3 to aim, and I'm going to use the 4 to fire. So let's roll the dice. I need 6 to hit. There are no intervening terrain, so no variations on that, so just 6 to hit. I'll roll the dice in there, and I've rolled 8, so I've hit. Now, let's take a look at that Stuart and see what the values are there, what we're comparing. Okay, so I've hit Nick's Stuart, and the good news for me is I've hit him in the side armour. Now, my strike is 7, so I've got my 7 dice ready, but the good news is that his tank is still unbuttoned. His leader's out the top, which means there's a greater chance of there being damaged cores. So I add an extra dice to my hand for that, so that's 8 dice. Nick, what's your armour factor?
Well, the armour factor on the Stuart is 5.
5.
And that's...
So we're gonna roll my dice against Nick's. Now, if we were rolling head on, I'd be looking, me shooting at his front armour, I'd be looking for 5s and 6s to hit, 5s being a normal hit, 6 being a critical hit. Nick would be looking for 5s and 6s to save. But as it is, because I'm hitting his side armour, I'm looking at 4s, 5s and 6s, and 5s and 6s are both critical hits. So let's see how we roll there. Okay, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 net hits there, Nicholas.
Okay.
But interestingly, 4 of them are 4s. So that's four hits, but only 1 critical hit. So if we're doing damage, I need to do, if I'm going to blow you up, I need to get 3 or more net hits. So let's see what we do.
Okay, so I'm going to roll 5. So the best I can hope for here is evens. So let's see. I need 5s and 6s.
Okay.
I've rolled
2.
2.
Now, so we've got my 5 hits against Nick's 3 hits. And 3 net hits means I've killed the tank. However, interestingly, because I have got most of my hits were not critical hits, it means that the tank is knocked out, but the crew survive. Now in this situation, that tank crew have got no previous kills, but if that was one of an ace, for example, that would allow that ace to now leave the table and come back in on subsequent games. So he might have lost his steed, but the knight is still fighting. So there we go. So that hasn't blown up, but it does become an obstacle for visibility. So there we go. And that is the end of my phase. And with my remaining dice, I'm going to reload.
And you've got a kill ring.
And I've got a kill ring if I can survive the game. So I'm now looking a little bit with concern at that US tank destroyer there, because I'm now desperate to survive this game. Anyway, we'll move straight on because it's my Stug now, who's been lurking, and so I'm going to roll his command dice. What do I roll there? 5, 5, 5, 4 and a 1. Now, he's still lurking there a bit.
He is.
I was hoping to hit this wall and get over it with a couple of 1s, but actually I've only got 1 1. And I'm not fast, so I can't add or change anything there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the 1 as a movement dice. I'm going to take the first dice of movement to turn 90 degrees on my tracks, and then roll the other dice to start moving forward, just an inch there. And that is pretty much the end of the turn for the Stug, but also the end of the turn for all of us. So we're going to take our tokens back in.
We only need 3 tokens now.
We only need 3 tokens now. Well spotted, Nicholas. And we're going to roll a dice each to see how we activate in the next turn. So, Panzer IV rolls a 4, Stug rolls a 3.
And the M10
rolls a 6. So, Nicholas, you're going first, followed by the Panzer IV, followed by the snail-like Stug over here. So, Nick, what are you going to do? How are you going to make things happen?
I'm going to roll the perfect hand to enable me to acquire you and then take you out, hopefully.
Oh, no, you're
or
not.
I've rolled 4 5s, a 1 and a 2. So again, I am a fast tank, so I could turn one of those 5s into a 1.
Do you know what? You could acquire me
if I move up.
If this is a bit ballsy, but if you whack it straight down the road to that corner, you can then see me.
Yeah.
However, you can change any one of your dice to an aim dice
because it's a tank destroyer.
Because it's a tank destroyer, so you could
might be able to get to the point where I can hope to be lucky next time.
Because the interesting thing for me is at this moment in time, all my energy has been focused on the Stuart. So I had acquired the Stuart. I no longer have. I've killed it. I had aimed at the Stuart. I no longer have. I killed it. And I am buttoned up, which means my opportunity to acquire a new target is going to be a little bit harder. So if Nick were to take the chance, it would be a case of me rolling a pretty solid hand to allow me to spot him, but then again I could do it. And his armour's pretty weak.
My armour's pretty weak, my gun's pretty good. So I'm going to favour my gun over my tracks and see if I can move up. Okay, I'm moving up with a 7, which probably is going to be nice enough to get me into that position where I can get open acquisition on you, which I think I can there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that moves me up enough to acquire you. So I have a 2,
you use the 1,
which is all I need to acquire you.
You don't, because it's a clear line of sight, you don't need a 2.
Correct.
Right.
And I can turn one of my 5s into a 3 and aim at him. So I will finish my activation in the hope that I can get a bead on him first next time round, but I will be aimed and ready to take him out.
Yeah, so let's see if that works, because next out the bag is the Panzer IV, and 3 6s, a 3, and a 5.
It's a fix.
Well, let's see if we can fix it for you. I am buttoned up, which means it's a clear sight. So I'm going to turn the first 6 into a 2. I've got a 3 already, so I'm aiming. But not only am I aiming, I've got another 3, so I'm aiming with a +1. And I'm going to turn this 6 into a 4. So I'm going to fire with that.
I don't want to hear anymore.
Knowing that I have got a 5 to reload and I've got a 6. Now, interestingly, I could use this 6 to turn it into a 3 if I wanted, which would allow me to aim with a +2. But on the other hand, I think I'll save it because that will always allow me a second shot. And I reckon one of the 2 shots, I only need 6 to hit. Of the 2 shots, one of them is going to get home. But this time, remember, I'm hitting with a +1 because I've got those 2 3s. So all I need is a 5, and I've done it with a 6. Now, Nicholas.
What word would you like me to say now?
I surrender. Might be appropriate. So I've got 7 dice, but you are...
What a tanker.
What a tanker indeed. You are unbuttoned because you can't be buttoned up.
That's right, it's an armour of 4, so it's a 3.
So you get, sorry, no, you are an armour of 4, so
four
I go up 1.
You go up 1.
So I roll my dice, looking, again, this is front armour this time, so 5s and 6s. 5s are ordinary, 6 are critical, and I've got 2 net hits. So 1's ordinary and 1's critical, so it won't be a critical hit. But let's see what Nick can do.
I've got 4 in my armour, so I roll and I fail to make a save. So that was 2.
2, net 2, and because it wasn't a critical hit, because I didn't get more critical hits than ordinary hits, that means that what's happened is the shell has hit the tank and the crew are shocked, and consequently they lose 2 of their command dice. So Nick will put 2 of his command dice into the damage box on his dashboard. But remember, I've still got that 6. I've used my 5 to reload. I'm now going to use that 6 to fire again. Normally I need 6 to hit, but I'm firing at a target that I've hit previously and that hasn't moved, so that is going to make it 5 to hit. I roll my 2 dice and I roll 6. So here we go again, Nicholas. This time it is my 8 dice against your 4 dice. Let's see what we can do this time. And that's a bit better. We've got 2 6s and a 5. So that's, if we get a hit, it's going to be critical. So roll your dice to see what we get.
I've managed to save 1.
1 save. Now that's a critical hit though. So I've got 2 net hits on him. The first one is critical. We roll the dice, it's a 1, so it's on the hull. So Nick's going to make a note of that on his damage box on his dashboard because that's going to slow his movement down.
It will.
And the second hit puts another one of his command dice into the damage box. So that's left me unloaded, but I'm acquired and I'm aimed, and I'm hoping I'm going to get my second kill, especially as this guy has only got 3 command dice that he can use. However, let's not forget our little Stug over here. He's going to activate now. Oh, he's pulled out a load of 1s. He's rolled 3 1s, a 2, a 5 and a 6.
The driver's woken up.
He's starting to think, well, now's the opportunity to go out there and nick a kill if I can get one. So I'm going to roll 4 dice forwards for a movement, and that's roll 6, 9. So here we go. He's going to go 9. So I've used 2 of my dice to do that. So my third movement dice, he's going to use the first one to turn 90 degrees and the second one to move forward with 1d6, just 2 inches. Now, interestingly, I've got a clear line of sight at you and I'm unbuttoned. So I've got my 2, which I'm going to use to acquire him. I didn't actually need that really. I'm going to turn my 6 into a 3 in order to aim. So I'm loaded, I've acquired my target, I'm aimed. I'm still unbuttoned because he's too busy looking at him for me to worry about that at the moment. And I've got a 5 which I can't use. That is a very tidy end of turn for me.
Hold on, Rich. You are a tank destroyer.
Oh, I am.
So you could have played that hand slightly differently.
Go on then.
You could have turned the 5 to reload into a 3 to aim. And then the 6, which was your wild dice, into a 4 to shoot.
Well, What a tanker. I failed to do that though, so I let you off the hook there. That's a shame because the Stug man would have been really pleased to have nicked a kill.
I don't feel like I've been let off the hook particularly. I feel like I'm up against the hook.
Well, let's see if we can get Duke. And we'll collect the tokens in and we're going to roll again to see who goes first. So Panzer IV man rolls a 4. Stug man rolls a 6.
M10 man.
M10 man rolls a 6.
Again.
So we're in a roll off with a Stug. This is key. I roll a 3.
And
he rolls a 4.
We get the first activation.
Right.
But however, last time though, we lost 3 dice to temporary damage.
You did.
And 1 dice to permanent damage.
Oh, that's a lot, Nicholas.
So it's only down to 2
dice. I thought you were on 3, but of course you lost 1 permanently.
Yeah. So we're down to 2 dice.
Yeah. I think clank, try and get it.
I have possibility of doing that.
Well, there is an issue.
I have a 1 and a 3 that I can now use.
There is an issue here that as this game's got to the point where he's outnumbered 2-1, he, as it's his phase, can actually say, that's it, I'm bugging out, I'm getting out of the game, in order to preserve his crew who have who've already got 1 kill ring, and that's certainly something he doesn't want to lose.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
However, let's play it through because I'd like to get a 2nd kill if I'm really honest.
I'm going to see if I can get out of here now. I think the only option for me here is to go backwards. I think would be a good thing for me to do.
I think you're probably
so
right.
I have a 1 and a 3.
Yeah.
Now I can turn my 3 into a 1 to enable me also to drive. So I could go backwards here with 2 d6 because I only get 1 reverse dice for each drive dice.
Yeah.
So I get 1 d6 for the first drive dice and 1 d6 for the second. So I could reverse here 2 d6.
And that means that both of my tanks are going to lose their aimed. And if he actually reverses, if he rolls 12 and gets behind cover, then hey, I can't see him. Oh, he's gone back 8.
8, which is enough for me to almost get back to, funny enough, to where I was before I came forward.
Right.
So
now that
which at
definitely
least
means
takes me out of line of the Stug.
Yeah. So my Stug loses its acquired and aimed. My Panzer IV loses its aimed, but the Tank Destroyer is very much within my 60-degree arc of fire, so I've still got him acquired, which is important. So that's your turn. Stug man waiting in the sky. He's going to have a go and see if he's going second. See what he can do. Now he's rolled a couple of 1s, and he's rolled a 3, he's rolled a 4 and 2 5s. No, it's a shame in a way because he can't acquire a target, but nevertheless he feels that his blood is up. He's going to roll 4 dice for movement, and he rolls 14. So the Stug is storming into action now. Okay, here we go. I'm hoping this roll for my Panzer IV is going to be a good one because I feel a kill coming on. Right, so I've already acquired you. I've got a 6, but I'm going to turn that into an aim. So that's into a 3. Then I've got a 4, and a 4, and a 4, and a 5. Now that means I've already got him acquired, so turning that 6 into a 3 allows me to aim. I can then fire, I'll be able to reload and fire again. So not a bad hand at all. I'm looking at hitting you on a 6, but actually there's a bit of intervening terrain because you reverse back round that Stuart. Yeah. So that'll make it a 7. Let's roll the dice and see what I get. 8. So, and you are obviously still unbuttoned because you can't button up.
That's right.
So I am rolling my normal 7 dice plus my 8 dice. And I'm looking at 4s, 5s and 6s here, and I've got 3 6s. I'm looking at 5s and 6s here because it's front armour, but I've got 3 6s and 1 5. So this could be critical.
Okay, so I need to save with every one of these to prevent a further decline. And I've
saved with 1.
Saved with 1.
So here we go. So I've got 3 net hits. More importantly, I've got 3 net critical hits. That means not only are you knocked out, Nicholas, with your little tanker who had that 1 kill previously, he has exploded and shot up into the Earth's atmosphere at around 2,000 miles an hour. So there we are, one tank on fire, one tank abandoned by its crew. That'll teach you to come messing around Normandy Bay with me, mate.
Absolutely. Next time.
Who knows? But yeah, there's just a quick run through. As you can see, the game plays pretty fast, pretty excitingly. We had some moments there where both of us are getting worried. I'm concerned that the Stug isn't getting its act together and coming out. What we're seeing represented here is only a few minutes of actual action. You know, each turn is, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, we only played, I don't know, 3 or 4 activations. I don't think I actually fired a shot.
No.
Which is unusual, but that's sometimes the way it goes when you're up against a right tanker.
Well, there we go, and that's all the tanking you'll get from us today. Hopefully we'll be able to make some more videos. If you've got any questions or queries, why not let us know, post them below on YouTube, then we can respond to those, and maybe we'll make a video about them and talk about you. Behind your back, probably though. Right, okay, that's it from us. Thanks very much.